It was, as Carl said, I think a great relief to see that soil has been recognised in the agricultural bill, and that agriculture and food has been recognised in the agricultural bill, because I remember being on the Today programme when we looked at the first launching of the agricultural bill, and I was on Today with Michael Gove, and there was a huge furore about this is an agricultural bill that doesn't mention agriculture. And indeed, when I looked at the press release the day before, it very much looked like the Environment Bill. And the point for us is that we've got to do this together. It's got to be about food production, it's got to be about the environment, it's got to be about biodiversity, and above all else, it's got to be about the challenge of our time, which is tackling climate change and what to do about it. So many of you will know, some of you won't, that pretty much a year ago at the Oxford Farming Conference, we decided as the National Farmers Union that we really needed to play a leadership role, that we could actually beat the government's target of 2050. We looked at all the international inventories and decided that actually with a willing government to work in partnership with, we felt that agriculture could achieve net zero in emissions by 2040, so beating the government target by 10 years. It's fair to say that I think it's been the best thing that we've done in a very, very long time. And the main reason for doing it was we are one of few industries, if not the only industry, that is both a source of emissions. So agriculture is currently 10% of UK emissions. But we are a sink, so we could do something about it. And we've set up 3 pillars of thinking, if you like, as to what we do about it. The first one being carbon sequestration and restoring carbon, building carbon. So looking at planting trees, which seems to be a big the tree wars in the run-up to the election as to who can plant the most trees. But it actually goes much deeper than that. Very much looking at our hedgerows, widening of hedgerows, our grasslands. I talked to farmers in New Zealand, where New Zealand agriculture is 50% of emissions, and taxes being imposed on farmers, and their only mechanism of offset is tree planting. And talking to the government DEFRA scientist the other day, Gideon Henderson, he was saying that he felt New Zealand as a country had really got it wrong, and he was incredibly enthused and excited about the policy that we are bringing together, and indeed working industry-wide and with the NGOs on as well. So the first pillar is around carbon sequestration and carbon storage. The second pillar is effectively focusing on productivity. Now, in the past, when I would have mentioned productivity as the president of the National Farmers Union, people sort of raise their eyebrows and say, oh, you farmers, you just want to produce more. I think productivity is such a misunderstood terminology. Productivity is about effectively producing more because you're better, because you're farming better, because you're farming smarter, so you're farming on less ground with less inputs, and always striving with new innovations, with new R&D to do more. There's a huge amount we can do, particularly in the livestock sector, by focusing on productivity measures and by totally climate-friendly farming, especially looking at health status, looking at genetics, and the role, I guess, of livestock in a farm system. And the third pillar, looking at renewable energy and the bioeconomy. Now, this has an important part to play, particularly in how we build bridges to where we want to get to. In the run-up to all of this, we actually kicked off a food strategy to shape the thinking of a future agricultural policy. And I was therefore delighted when Henry Dimbleby announced, under Michael Gove's leadership when he was Secretary of State in DEFRA, that we would be having the first meaningful food strategy in 75 years. Now, rather than react to government and what they're doing, we decided 18 months ago that we would get ahead of the game, we would bring stakeholders together, we would have roundtable discussions as to what a meaningful food strategy could look like. We would effectively kick off that conversation. And there were 4 strands of thinking in that discussion. 1, integrity and standards. 2, health and nutrition. We as an industry were not focused on nutrient density. We've not focused on getting people back to whole foods. getting back to a healthy, balanced diet and what contributes to that healthy, balanced diet. Also looking at agriculture's relationship with nature and indeed how we do deliver on climate change. But the one that I want to pick out is the moral imperative, effectively, of should we be producing food in the UK? And I think there are many reasons to say, yes, we should, not least the size of our expanding population. And sometimes you have to look back, and history shows you many of the answers, if you like, that you need for today. And it's been interesting to look back with an agricultural bill being launched today at the journey that we have been on. Now, many people only get as far as our accession to the European Union. Actually, this is far more of a profound moment than that. If you look back to the 1940s, Great Britain was 30% self-sufficient. We had had 2 world wars that had changed political thinking and political ambition. And it was decided that actually we should be prioritising food security, we should be prioritising food production at home, and we set the ambition to drive 80% self-sufficiency by the 1980s. And here we are at that pivotal moment, again, of what do we do, and where do we go, and what does it look like? We're around about 60% self-sufficient in the moment. And potentially we should be saying we can produce more of what we're good at. And I would certainly pick out fruit and vegetables as one of those. We only produce 7% of our fruit here, 53% of our veg. And I think Kathy, as the farmer on the panel, indeed so am I, but Kathy is much more hands-on farming than certainly I am at the moment. She will very much be talking about, this is not an either or, this is about both. Now, some people can't have a business like Kathy's, they can't be growing vegetables within that system, but some people can. And I think the conversation that we haven't had, that Michael will really bring to life, is around soil fertility. It is great to see it in the agricultural bill, but the livestock that we have in this country is absolutely what builds the health, the biodiversity of our soil structures. When we look at the moral imperative of should we produce food here, some of you will be thinking back. Margaret Beckett said we're going to have a national park, we don't need to produce food. George Monbiot saying many similar things. I think we can do all of it. I think we have to do all of it. We just have to do it differently, we have to do it better, and we have a chance now with a new policy on the table to shape what I believe is needed, which is a global ambition on sustainability. The world is crying out for a global leader. And it is not just about climate change. On a day like today, when it has rained all day, and I have to say when I was here yesterday, and it rained all day, we are in the most fortunate position that we are wasting one of the most prized natural resources on the planet, our water. And it is only when you look at the pressures we are putting on Chile, South Africa, Spain, Israel, other parts of the world where we are bringing in a huge amount of our fruit and vegetables that you realise this in itself is unsustainable. We cannot continue to put such vast pressure on other parts of the world to feed our fairly wealthy diets and desires going forward. So we absolutely need to build water into our ambition. We have to be looking at climate-friendly food and water. We have to be able to plan, we have to be able to protect, we have to be able to pay farmers to store water, and we have to be able to move water. It's quite extraordinary in these times that we are not actually prioritising storing water and moving water. It's perfectly within the art of the possible to do it, and indeed we need to do it. 7% of our fruit in this country is an unsustainable place for the UK to be. So what we have said to the Prime Minister is you have a real opportunity to be the leader that the planet is so desperately crying out for. We host the COP here in November. It will be the most important round of climate change discussion that we will have ever had. It is vital, I think, that we take ownership of this, we grasp this opportunity with both hands. We have the policy, we know that it can work with a willing government, and we really believe that we can be the most sustainable farmers in the world. And I just want to leave you with one thought when we look at the role of livestock. And it's been very important, I think, to bring such a varied panel here today to discuss this. The farmers that I speak to, the farmers that I represent, they have looked at me, some of them with tears in their eyes, saying, why does the media just focus on us? Why does it have to be about livestock? Why can't it be about balance? And I think today, I hope it's the start of a conversation that's about balance. I think it's great that we've turned the conversation around to talk about diet. I tell all farmers, veganism is here to stay. There is nothing wrong with veganism. It's when we take these polarised views and we say that it is an either or. And we are not going to tackle climate change by just ticking the box on meat. This is about all of us taking ownership of the challenge and recognising that there are huge opportunities for us going forwards. And if we just look at where we are, we have 270 million dairy cattle in the world. And we focused a lot on the efficiencies of the UK dairy cow. And if all those dairy cows across the world were as efficient as the UK dairy cow, the point I made on productivity, the point I made on efficiencies, we'd only need 70 million dairy cows. And this is the point. We have the policy, we have the ambition, and we should be out leading on the world stage. It's a chance for resetting our minds. We can't do the change without all of you. You have a great opportunity here in the South West. Here in Devon, there are more farmers in Devon than any other county, and let me tell you, they make their views very, very clear to me, and I'm sure to you. There's a lot of farmers here. Farming absolutely underpins the economy, and they want to think differently. They want to work with you. And so it's a new conversation. It's about diet. It's about the ambition. It's about getting the policy right, and it's about propelling our government into a place where farmers are the solution in all of this.